Bill has been filed. Bruce Hunter filed last night. I will be on the Fallon Forum tomorrow, webcast 1 live TV. Look for the link on the Green Central Station page. POWERBOWL 4, Saturday night, 4. We're going to talk about some things. A bill has been filed for medical marijuana in the state of Iowa. If you go on the website of the Iowa legislature, look up HF22 is our bill. Bruce Hunter filed that. And some other bills were filed. Strictly outlaw bills by the drug apes. I'm going to talk about those. I think Lively can bring me up to speed with those. I'll look them up. Not very nice. This is supposed to be Iowa nice. First one of those bills came to my attention was House StudyBill 1029, introduced by Governor's Office of Drug Control Policy, otherwise known as the Great Iowa Drug Ape Trust. Okay, this is a act relating to the excise tax. Right now there is a 5% excise tax on the drug tax stamp if caught with a quantity of marijuana deemed punishable by a drug tax stamp. At 5%, they want to raise it to 8%. They also wanted to raise the dealer limit, the charge for that above 7 grams to 3 grams. To 3 grams. So they want to charge, if you got 3 grams or more split up or whatever, or just 3 grams, and you were distributing it, it could be a dealer classification, $8 a gram. But I think they're, realistically, they should be setting the stage to put the 8% for the sales of recreational use of marijuana or medical marijuana, but medical marijuana should not be taxed because it is medicine. So, we got Senate Study Bill 1029, the drug ape bill, introduced to increase the drug tax stamp to 8% in Iowa. And then we got another one. I'm lobbying against this one too, SSB 1049. They want to exclude everything. They said they want to take the power away from the Iowa Board of Pharmacy for allowing medical marijuana in Iowa. Based on 2010, they're saying that they had the power then, but they really didn't. So, it's an act relating to the controlled substance of marijuana, providing penalty, including effective date, study bill. And they want to strike down the 2010 Board of Pharmacy recommendation. It never went nowhere the last time they introduced it last year, but with the drug apes, and now, why don't they focus on the prescription drug abuse? People dying from that. You know, if they want, you know, Patrick Kennedy's and the Sam Club, the bad Sam Club. So, I'll be on the Fallon Forum tomorrow with Lively Libra between 12:40 and 1 o'clock. POWERBOWL 4.
Element is still an important conversation, Ray. Tell us why it's important to you.
Well, for me, it's important. 9 years ago, this month, I had my first MS attack. I woke up and I couldn't move my leg, and a lot of people thought I had a stroke. And after numerous tests, going back and forth to the doctor, it came back 100%. I have multiple sclerosis, and I've regained the mobility in my leg. I really have to maintain my energy level and the things I do. But when I was diagnosed with MS, the doctors wanted to prescribe me, you know, drugs that I knew were addictive and that I knew that I would become addicted to. And
what kinds of drugs are we talking about?
Opiate prescription painkillers, and then antidepressants that have
terrible side effects.
Terrible side effects that some are listed as suicidal side effects. And you're going to ask somebody that, you know, is aware of the dangers of these drugs to take these drugs to make themselves feel better. And in turn, I discovered a whole new world of MS patients that are using cannabis as an alternate therapy for their health, most notable Montel Williams.
Okay.
And so I really gravitated to him and his efforts of lobbying, and I've been campaigning to get him to come to Iowa since then.
That'd be all right.
This was 2004 when I was diagnosed, and I was arrested in 2005 for possession of less than a gram of marijuana.
So, okay, and you were using it for medicinal purposes.
Correct.
And yet you were arrested. What did you did you spend time in prison or jail?
No, just I had to do 6 days in jail to get off of probation, because under the probation requirements is the substance abuse treatment and then being able to pass clean urinalysis and things like that. And basically jump through the hoops. But the reality is the people that really have serious substance abuse problems, they're able to get through the drug testing and things like that because those substances only stay in your body for a couple of days.
Right.
The thing about drug testing, it basically just outs the cannabis consumer. And the thing is, as a patient here in the state of Iowa and somebody that's been lobbying since 2006 is when I first went up to the Capitol and signed up and registered as a lobbyist. We've been, myself and other patients, we're asking that, those in the media to, and those supporting medical marijuana in the state of Iowa to not make jokes about our conditions.
So now there is legislation being proposed, I believe, by Bruce Hunter.
Right, it was just filed.
What would that do specifically?
Well, it would offer access to medical marijuana patients in the form of either having your own caregiver produce the marijuana for you, or you could go to a state-regulated distribution center, dispensary, so to say. It wouldn't be like a full-blown California-style thing or anything like that, but.
So what's your assessment of the prospects of that legislation passing?
Well, of course, with Terry Branstad stating that he's going to veto any progressive marijuana bill in the state of Iowa, we basically don't have a chance.
Right.
But here's the thing: since Bruce Hunter filed that bill, the Governor's Office of Drug Control Policy, they filed 2 bills too, more restrictive bills on marijuana. One of them will restrict your possession. If you have possession of 3 grams or less, you could be, or 3 grams or more, you can be classified as a dealer. Right now, it's 7 grams is the threshold as a dealer classification. They want to lower it down to 3 grams. So, in turn, Terry Branstad wants to increase the incarceration rates in our state prisons.
So, and I know there are lots of people in prison for.
There's 300 in the state of Iowa that are in prison,
specifically for marijuana.
Yeah, that are doing time, not just county time, state time.
So in the prison system.
So that's $50,000 a year each person.
Well, that's probably high. It's probably more like 30,000 maybe, but
right,
still,
but
it's a lot of money.
It's all residual. It's all residual, and it all creates a tax base if you don't spend it.
Well, it's a waste of money. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
It's a waste of money.
Yeah.
But here's my position. I wanted to mention about that these medical conditions that myself and many people I've networked through that may have glaucoma, or many have MS that I've met. Some have Crohn's disease. We're not. It's not to be joked about. Our conditions aren't to be joked about. We're not trying to smoke dope. Now, like the doctor that hosted your show the last time with the 2 young gentlemen, the one from ISU, those are well-spoken gentlemen.
Charles Goldman. Yeah.
And I appreciate the doctor giving us his endorsement for medical use of marijuana, but I didn't appreciate his condescending, just an excuse to go smoke dope. Okay, because we say nope to FDA dope.
Well, I didn't, and I wasn't. He was subbing for me, so I don't remember. And I did watch the show, but I don't remember that.
Well, it's just the puns and the jokes.
But there are people who say that.
The jokes are hurtful.
Yeah, and there are people who do say that. They think that, well,
just smoking dope.
Folks who claim medicinal interests are really just wanting to use it recreationally.
Right, but
that claim is made.
You're looking at a living clinical trial.
Yeah.
I take no prescription medicine at all.
And yet you were done. That was done originally. Originally, they gave you opiates. It had horrible effects on you.
I've taken steroid treatments.
And so and you've been using marijuana for what, 5 years now?
9 years.
9 years now. Okay.
For to treat my multiple sclerosis. I'm not going to sit here and deny that I never used marijuana, but when I found out that it was a very safe and effective way to treat my condition,
right,
of course I was able to not have a fear of it, because somebody should not have a fear of marijuana.
Yeah. So, are you again? I understand the wisdom of not having a fear of marijuana, but what about a fear of the law? Are there any repercussions for you? Are there any risks that you run legally?
That's part of the problem, is coming openly as a public advocate. So you pretty much open yourself up to the possibilities of somebody using that against you to bring harm to you, yourself, or your family.
I mean, and here I appreciate your advocacy and your outspokenness, and here you are in front of a camera on a talk show discussing this.
I used to have an online show. I was in the studio originally,
yeah,
Remax Studios with Carl. And
okay, with Carl Olson, sure.
Carl's
Cannabis Corner.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you have any concern about possible, maybe somebody in Sheriff McCarthy's watching the show thinking, let's get that
I've
guy.
met Sheriff McCarthy at the Polk County Community Conversations last summer. I participated in that with all the Polk County supervisors.
Okay.
Yeah, I turned in a report to Sheriff McCarthy.
And how do they feel about your medicinal use of marijuana?
Well, they're saying that they're not the ones in charge of making the laws.
Okay, but they're the one in charge of enforcing the law.
Thank you.
Okay, so what do? Are their hands tied?
Basically, they you need to talk to the lawmakers.
They're kind of looking the other way, aren't they? I mean, it got to. I mean, you were arrested once years ago, but now people are kind of looking the other way. Law enforcement is looking the other way for the most part, right? I mean, it still should. I still totally agree that the law needs to be changed, and we ought to have it. It ought to be totally legal. And if nothing else, we could start with medicinal marijuana.
Well, there's no law against freedom of speech.
Well, no, but there certainly are restrictions on it, as I've discovered myself.
Yes, there are. And there are laws against civil disobedience and doing certain things in public and things like that. And
yeah.
Well, I come from a different culture. I come from a culture of a group of individuals, a large group of individuals all over the state of the United States, that some things are just passé.
I think you should be able to find support among Republicans. Maybe not Terry Branstad, but again, I introduced the medical marijuana bill in 1993. Way before it was. I mean, it was a really bad. It was considered a really, really bad political idea for me to do that back then. But Carl was actually a constituent of mine. I wanted to make sure his voice was heard, that his ideas had representation. I introduced the bill, and I found out as I continued to introduce legislation to that effect every couple years, every term, I found that I was getting support from Republicans who were libertarian, but also in some cases it was one Republican whose clerk had benefited from the use of marijuana or I think she might have had a friend who'd benefited from the use of marijuana for a medical problem, and so even among Republicans, there are those who understand the value of this drug.
Mm-hmm. And if Governor Branstad of Iowa is so sincere about his war on drugs, why doesn't he restrict the sale of energy drinks to children? Caffeine's a drug, and pop cans contain 10 times more than the recommended one day, and 10 children have had heart attacks, and 7 have died in the state of Iowa. So. Yeah. And again, what about the old people? That's my reply when they all say, well, what kind of message is it that we're sending to the young adults? I say, well, what about the old people that I personally know that have left Iowa, that are retired, that have moved to Colorado, and they were given a short amount to live under prescription medication. Now they've kicked themselves from the FDA drugs. Some of them have weaned themselves off of drugs like methadone,